Knock, knock. Knock, knock. Okay, one more time. Knock, knock. Hi there. My name is Lucy Skelton, and I'm one of your candidates running at this election. I must have repeated these words thousands of times to thousands of members of my community when I ran for Parliament last year, but one house stands out. It was the last house in the street. I was exhausted. My feet were tired. I'd been knocking on doors every day, but time was running out. The election was just over a month away, and I knew that every conversation mattered. I climbed the few steps onto their porch, 2 little bikes with training wheels and toys littered around the front door. I stood there, clipboard and flyers in hand, and knocked. To my delight, a young mum answered. Let's call her Rachel. I introduced myself and asked if she had a moment to talk about the issues that were important to her. We spoke about better bike lanes because her husband rode his bike to work. We spoke about her kids who were attending the local primary school. And we spoke about how disillusioned she felt with politics. Then, as we were getting to know each other, the question was asked. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but can I ask, how old are you? I smiled at the expected question. I know I don't look like your average politician, but as one of the youngest candidates in the Victorian election, I told her I was 20 years old. She looked shocked but curious, as she then asked, why? Why would a 20-year-old choose to do something as crazy as run for Parliament? Why wasn't I at bars or uni or travelling the world? I told Rachel that I was filled by both a sense of terror and hope. I remember holding out one hand, saying I was terrified. At 13, I felt like my future had been ripped away from me once I learned about the fires and floods of climate change. I remember sitting in my school classroom, gripping the sides of my seat, heart pounding in my chest, thinking about how much longer we had left to fix this. And last year, I learned that 1 in 2 young people under the age of 25 are more likely to be impacted by suicide. I'm 21, and I've already lost 2 friends. I am terrified for the future of my community, but especially those most vulnerable if we do not act. I then held out my other hand. On this hand, I explained to Rachel that I am equally filled with hope. I've been involved with advocacy movements since I was 13 years old. I've seen the look in someone's eye as the realization dawns on them and they're spurred into action. A young girl in a school uniform coming up to me as a candidate, sharing that she's now thinking about a career in politics after seeing a young woman run. This gives me hope. I believe that we need young people in politics for the health of our democracy. If you have a vote, you have the power to open the door to a young candidate, and it's your choice whether to slam it in their face or to give them a chance. Parliament is responsible for millions of people and billions of dollars at a point where globally trust in democracy is faltering and politicians are one of the least trusted groups of people. Don't we need fresh faces with good intentions? I believe that we need young people in politics for 2 key reasons. Reason 1, to bring a voice to the room that is currently not there. Now, I've heard people say that young people don't have the experience, but what I want to draw your attention to is what kind of experience? According to the 2021 census, Gen Z accounts for 18% of the Australian population. Yet out of the 227 federal members of Parliament, just 2 are under the age of 30. That's less than 1%. And where I ran, the Victorian Parliament, under the age of 30, there is just 1. Everyone deserves a fair say in the decisions that affect their lives. At 18, we can join the military, we can consent, we can pay taxes, we can vote. How can we accept that an entire demographic of people doesn't get a seat in the room where it happens. A quote I love is, "No decisions about us without us." I want to see diverse parliaments that look like our communities. That includes women, people of colour, queer people, disabled people, migrants, and that includes young people. Diversity in Parliament is like a toolbox filled with various different tools, ensuring that you have the right instrument to address the complex challenges we face. ChatGPT wrote that simile. We know that young people will disproportionately face the impacts of climate change. It is estimated that half of the world's coral reefs have already been lost due to coral bleaching over the last 30 years. We will never get to see them. Whilst many politicians today receive their university education for free, for me and many of my peers studying humanities, some arts courses are now double the cost. Facing what has been deteriorating economic indicators, my generation is the first Australian generation in living memory to be worse off than our parents. Rising house prices, high debt, stagnant wages, and underemployment all contribute to my generation's ability to progress as much as our parents did. There are more statistics that I researched for this, but they are so horrifying that I don't want to put them in. How can we accept this? If we don't want to throw away our shot at changing this, we must listen to the generation impacted. When I spoke to Rachel about this at her door, she said it reminded her of when a group of only men would sit in a room and would get to decide what would happen to women's rights. It is clear that as more women have entered Parliament, better decisions have not only been made for women, but for our country. Now, I'll be the first to admit that a young person may not have 20 years of corporate experience, but what they do have is 20 years of lived experience in a world that is very different from 20 years ago. Experience that perhaps no one else in the room would have. What it's like to be a 20 or so something in the 2020s. That's an asset. Reason 2, they can be good at the job. Now, I'd like to do a quick poll. Hands up if you think someone under the age of 25 has climbed Mount Everest, written a symphony, or has even won a Nobel Prize. Yeah? To all those who put their hand up, you're right. Jordan Romero reached the summit of Mount Everest when he was 13 years old. Mozart wrote his first symphony at age 8. An Australian, Lawrence Bragg, won a Nobel Prize in physics when he was just 25 years old. Now, we all don't have to be Mozart, but let's not underestimate young people. We know that our future is at stake, and we are already doing the work on the front lines of change. We're organising demonstrations, starting petitions, founding organisations, joining boards, and bringing government and corporations to court. As young changemaker Malati Wiseman put it, we are refusing to wait until we are older to start making a difference. Jacinta Allen, who you may now know as Victoria's new Premier, refused to wait until she was older to start making a difference. Jacinta was first elected to the Victorian Parliament at just 25 years old, and then went on to become Victoria's youngest minister at just 29. Young people are often associated with creativity, boldness, energy, and passion. We're digital natives, we're inclusive, and we're highly educated on the issues that are important to us. To be good at the job, you don't need to be over 30. You don't need to be over 30. You need to be able to compassionately listen, weigh up evidence, and be able to advocate on your community's behalf. These are skills that do not have to be acquired over decades. I'm sure everyone here knows someone over 40 who is still learning these skills and knows a young person who is nailing it. So why should we hold their age against them? This this is why I so strongly believe that we need young people in politics. For when we have young people in politics, our parliaments are more diverse and reflective of our communities, and that makes our democracy stronger. When we have a strong democracy, everyone wins. To all those who put their hand up when I asked if you thought a young person had done the extraordinary, you know that young people are capable of incredible things. But would you vote for one of them? When I spoke to Rachel at her door, she was worried about her future, about her kids' future, and she knew that things had to be done differently for our community. By the end of our conversation at her door, we were arranging a sign for her fence and a time for her to volunteer for our campaign on the weekend. You have the power to open a door to a young candidate. At the next election, if there's a young candidate who knocks on your door, don't turn them away because of their age. Because maybe, just maybe, not only would they be good at the job, but offer a voice in the room that is currently not there, strengthening our democracy. I want to help. And for me and many other young people, politics is the way to do it. That's what I hope all those locals saw when I was standing at their doorstep. Thank you.